From a historical and experimental music viewpoint, this score was a groundbreaking, ambitious work, especially renowned for its inventive use of electric and electronic instruments, captured in innovative recording techniques, including electroacoustically. This combined all of those into what should be considered some of the earliest electronic music. So how did he imagine this? Sounds played backwards, forwards, mixed on top of each other. How did he do it notation-wise, direction, and the score, as well as how did he explain this to to his collaborators? We'll talk about all that. He was, as you know, most of you know, he's a Juilliard and NYU trained composer conductor. At the time, mostly known for his scores for radio and film, but he had substantial concert music output, including his premieres of his cantata and his symphony with the New York Philharmonic. This was his first film as a Hollywood-based composer. So that is, he had left his birthplace and lifelong home in the NYC, and he created an opus that only a musician with his knowledge, his background, his imagination, his confidence, supported by the generous resources of a film studio and the Hollywood system that could have made such bold music in 1951. The film is set in the present of 1951, and the idea of an alien invasion about the future, that is a dystopia soaked in fear, technology was at the foremost in the thought at this time. 1951 is the dawning of the space age, which came to fruition with the Soviet Sputnik in 1957. Many consider this film to be a Cold War parable. So his extensive use of history with radio, with that in mind, it's interesting to connect the years 1920, that's the invention of the theremin, to release this film. So and that really is what most consider to be the golden age of radio. He had led the CBS orchestra, radio orchestra, for 16 years, so he had an intimate knowledge of how microphones capture music and how audio can be mixed and produced for broadcast, including special sound effects. That's a big part of the lure of the radio show's storytelling arsenal, as it was for Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, for which Herrmann was the conductor. We'll talk about this idea of the overlays in the score and a way to explain layers of sound, and how that worked in terms of sound design elements or hazy elements, and particularly in this film, the idea of the role they played in this fear and technology. Um, this is also an important point to consider because most other composer conductors around this time would be primarily focused on how the music sounds in an acoustic space. They're thinking about how it sounds in an acoustic space, a concert hall, rather than how the technology captures and broadcasts those sounds. No, we're going to talk about notations about 10-second reverberations. So he's already thinking about the sound of a sound in space, played in different directions. 1951, absolute, just